Board of Education will now come to order February 14th, 2023 at 5:33 p.m.
Mr. Alexander,
Present.
Ms. Kelly,
Present.
Ms. Medina, absent. Ms. Patterson,
Here.
Ms. Grant,
Happy Valentine's Day.
Mr. Belterra is here, Mr. Wagner, absent. Motion carried.
Can I get a motion to retire to executive session for the purpose of litigation when an action against affected or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is portable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting 5 ILCS 120/2C11. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serves as independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers for the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against any employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of the public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and hosted and held in accordance with this Act 5 ILCS 120/2C1. Collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employee or their representatives, or deliberation concerning salary schedule for one or more classes of employee 5 ILCS 120/2C2. Please call the roll. Could I get a motion? I'm sorry.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Alexander,
Aye.
Ms. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Medina, absent. Ms. Patterson,
Here, aye.
Ms. Grant,
Aye.
Mr. Belterra, aye. Mr. Wagner,
Aye.
We are in executive session at 5:35.
Mr. Alexander,
Aye.
Ms. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Medina,
Aye.
Ms. Patterson,
Aye.
Ms. Grant,
Aye.
Mr. Altair is aye. Mr. Wagner? Aye. Motion carries.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Alvarez, can you please read the vision statement?
Through expectations of excellence and by providing equitable educational opportunities to empower each student, our graduates are prepared for college, careers, and to serve as contributing members of a dynamic global society.
Dr. Henderson, reports, communication.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam President, Vice President, Board Secretary, and board members, and community. Do we have Mr. Sylvan here?
Yes, we do. And I believe Ms. McGurk. Come up.
I would just like to, you can stand at the podium, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Recognize Mr. Sylvan, one of our social studies teachers at West High School, and one of his students. Last semester, his class, at least 2 classes, wrote to the President of the United States of America. And this month, we received a response back from the President of the state, of the United States of America. And we would like for Mr. Sylvan and his student to just share a little bit with us about that.
What, Ms. McGurk, I'll let her speak. She always likes to.
When I was taking civics, I decided to write a letter to the president about how I feel abortion should be legal in all 50 states. It was exciting, and I was happy that I got a letter back. I feel like I'm being listened to, like people are listening to us, and I feel like it's good for everybody to write to get an answer. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Mr. Silver's class too a lot.
Thank you.
Great job, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things to do. I've been doing it now since Clinton was the president. And it's always fun to get something back. It's great that it came on White House stationery. The last time I got one of it like this was when it was 9/11. And the kids, again, were very touched about what was going on in the world. And again, there's so much going on that the students want to be able to say something and say it to somebody who can maybe mean something. And as I said to them, your grandchildren will be able to go to the presidential archives now and be able to find the letter that you wrote to the president. And I think this might be a good project for all of Proviso to do, for all of our civics classes. We even tried to invite him here. Well, we're very close to O'Hare, and it wouldn't be hard for him to come and visit us. It would be a great thing to see him and meet any president of the United States to come and visit us, and we would hope we could do it. We wrote my class for this semester. I started them out, and again, we wrote to the president again, and some of the kids had some great things to say, and we're on very current topics. Again, abortion, police brutality, change, very, very current. I was really impressed with them, and I hope we hear from him again. And then if he sends another letter, we can hang it up here at the central office.
All right, thank you so very much.
She's a great kid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. What a great job.
Yes. Thank you. It's that by Friday.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. It's always fun.
That is what this work is all about. So we really want to say thank you again to Mr. Sylvan and his 2 classes. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
And now I would like to share with the board and the community that back in November last year, the multilingual department issued a compliance monitoring. And they did come here last semester, and we have responded to the corrective action plan. And I want to say thank you to those individuals who worked so diligent and hard to respond to the state. And that's Dr. Sharon Williams, Dr. Bessie Caballas, and of course our EL coordinator, Mr. Saldivar, thank you, I'm sorry, Mr. Saldivar. And ISB response to the corrective action, you could either have accepted or not fully accepted. And I wanted to announce to the community and the Board of Education that we received and accepted. Now this evening, you're going to hear some great news. And I'm almost going to come out of order, but I'm not. But I do want you to know that we have been working with our consultant, Dr. Kaneem. You all met him last year sometime. And we have some great news around our capital project. And you be ready for that good news tonight, along with all the great things that are happening academically in our district. We are moving forward despite what has been said, and our job, educators, is to stay focused on the children. Everything else will work itself out. So with that being said, Dr. Williams, will you please come forward? And then Dr. Caballas shortly thereafter.
Good evening, President Patterson, Vice President Kelly, Secretary Valtorez, board members, and Dr. Henderson. I'm Sharon Williams, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools, with a few updates for you regarding the educational services.
Can you hold on for a second? If we have any questions of the Board of Education members, are going to ask that we hold it until Dr. Williams has completed her presentation. Thank you.
So the first update, we'd like to update you and the community The next update is a quick data snapshot. So each month we update you regarding our enrollment. This opportunities for students, and also tomorrow we'll be launching paper online tutoring that the Board of Education approved last semester, in order to provide one-on-one tutoring, online tutoring support for students 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Can I stop you for 1 second? There's no audio on the live screen.
Yeah, I think we just resolved it, just found out about that.
Okay,
So it should be good moving forward.
thank you.
So this slide is just an overview of the all core courses, semester grade distribution for our core courses. The next several slides will break those down between those 4 core courses to see where our students are performing in terms of their grades. So in English and math, we have most of our students passing their courses. Of the 4 core courses, the highest failure rates happen to be in math. And you'll see that on the next slide, in science and social studies, where our lower performing students, D's and F's, fall. The next several slides just breaks this information down into numbers, so it just shows the pure raw numbers for each of our core courses, and for those divided by school. And then finally, to go a little deeper into Scholars on Track, the live data tool that school leaders have access to and is pulled from data directly from PowerSchool is picking up on the grades that students are earning. So after the first semester, the definition for the graphs that you'll see on the next few slides is defined as failing 2 or more core classes. This metric will update after the second semester to fully match the ISB definition. So this is real-time data that school leaders can use to look by department, look by teacher, look by student, to see where the gaps are for our students. The sophomore, junior, and senior on track follow the same definition as the 9th grade on track, but it doesn't pull into consideration the prior earned credits for scholars. The first slide shows overall how our scholars are doing regarding their traverse to graduation. So last year, our summative, on the summative report card for ISB, the district was at 63.3% of ninth graders on track. This year, after first semester, we're at 85.31 freshmen, ninth graders on track to graduation. At Proviso Math and Science Academy, already performing quite well on ninth grade on track. However, they have made gains in this area, and you can see that 100% of ninth graders after semester 1 are on track for graduation. And that's in comparison to 86% at the end of last year. Proviso East has shown the greatest amount of improvement. We're very proud of the East team and the improvement they've made in this area. As you can see, the report card from last year for East was 44% of ninth graders were on track to graduation after semester 1. They have nearly doubled that amount to 86.67%. I would like to give a special thanks to Principal Rodney Hull and his team. And then at Proviso West, again, some improvement from the ninth grade on track last year, which was at 71%. They're at 76.02% now. And so there is some gain there as well. So next actions and continuous improvement. Tomorrow at our school leaders professional development meeting, our district science and wellness coordinator is going to lead a workshop. Mr. Spelnies helped create the data tool that we use to track this data in live time and update weekly. We're going to engage our school leaders in professional development around using this tool to be able to dig into the data even deeper by department, teacher, and student. We're also going to strengthen our approach to conferencing with teachers and students regarding grades and grading practices. We're also increasing our opportunities for credit recovery for first semester courses. So we know that we need to capture those students who are still not experiencing success as freshmen to make sure that they stay on track, get on track and stay on track. And again, I mentioned paper online tutoring. That kickoff is tomorrow with professional development for teachers. Parents and families are also going to receive information on how students can access paper, and then after strengthening our after-school tutoring programs as well to keep students from failing in the first place. So we want to keep them on track and improve their grades before we get to summer school. Summer school is a strategy, but we want to get them back on track even before summer school. And that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Are there any questions?
Yes. So, you said that you're going to be having, this meeting. Are you going to be discussing the impact of the grading practices? The 50% grading policy that we have, because it's discouraging rigor that impacts our freshmen on track. We're not following an attendance policy. So are we going to have a discussion in the school as to what the impact of this 50% grading policy has had on students?
The focus for the learning for school leaders tomorrow is to be able to look at the data tool and use the real-time data in order to make decisions about instructional leadership practices. So for instance, supporting their teachers around grading practices writ large, and also to be able to support students in who need tier 2 and tier 3 intervention, academic intervention in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So that's the focus for the professional development tomorrow.
Okay. And how many teachers are being trained and prepared for the MSA academies? We have a lot of new students coming in. We had a lot of teachers that were not trained in IB. We're giving IB classes at West and at East. And the students are coming here thinking that we are giving them a full IB program. What programs are you implementing to ensure that every student that's in an IB class has an IB trained teacher?
The IB diploma program is actually accepting applications. I'd like to encourage all of our 10th grade scholars to please apply. The rigor that can be found in IB classes and AP classes cannot be matched within the state and the United States. And we understand that teachers do need additional training in order to teach at a high level of rigor. We have the only out-of-district professional development that we've sponsored this year has been for IB training of teachers. So we're very invested. I'd have to look that up and get that information back to Dr. Henderson.
Okay. Because it's very important to the parents that they actually get those classes, and for the teachers to be able to teach it effectively. Are you looking to start the freshman academy again? Because when we had freshmen on track, when we had the higher grades, higher percentages previous to COVID, one of the impactful programs was the freshman on track, was the freshman academy. Are we going to start that again?
Yes, and I'm smiling because as I was sitting with Mr. Ashoff and Mr. Spelnies today, reviewing this data, we did mention that. That is a very strong approach and one that we need to look at in terms of freshman academies, pulling together support for our 9th graders. Certainly haven't spoken with Dr. Henderson about this yet, but that is a strategy that we just talked about when we reviewed this data today.
Okay. And the other thing is, you said you were going to get back to me, is does the paper online tutoring provide ESL and ELL and SPED accommodations for tutoring?
Yes, so any student can access the online tutoring. The tutors will tutor the student at the level they are. So a student is going to engage with a tutor around a problem that they are having difficulty with, or a paper that they want feedback on. So it is the highest level of modification, accommodation, support of a student to have direct support one-on-one with a skilled tutor who can take the question that the student has at the time and walk them through the process of solving that problem together.
Do they take the IEPs, and is that inputted so that the student can get somebody that actually understands some of those accommodations?
No, so this is a live tutor. They're certified teachers or otherwise who pick up the line when the student has a question. So it's not that they would have any access to student data, they won't. What they will have access to is what the student is interested in learning at that time.
Okay. The other question that I had is, why are we looking at grades? Since we have a 50% rule for grading, why aren't we looking at growth? Because usually most schools and most educational institutions look at growth and change, and we don't look at grades.
We're looking at both. Actually, the ISB summative designation requires us to look at grades. So if you think about 9th grade on track and graduation rate, which is 50% of the ISB summative designation, scholars graduate because they have passed all of the courses that we required them to pass with a passing grade in order to graduate. That's 50% of the summative designation. 9th grade on track is 8.33% of that summative designation, and therefore we have to look at grades in order to make growth on the ISB summative designation. We also look at growth through measures that help us understand growth, such as the STAR, reading, and math. So that window is currently open. That ends Friday. What we will be able to see from this administration of STAR is how much students grew from the beginning of the year to this point in the school year. So yes, we look at both. However, this is the data set that we're focusing in on tonight.
Mm-hmm. Usually we've always historically looked at growth as well, because it's important for us to know if anything is.
Yes,
working.
and we have presented numerous times on our STAR growth We had the first administration in the fall of this year, and again, the winter window is open this week and will end Friday. So we'll be able to see in real time Friday how much our students grew from the fall administration to the winter administration in reading and math.
So I just want to reiterate the question that I had before because it wasn't fully answered. For our tutoring program, do the ELL students have tutors in Spanish? If
Yes.
that is necessary. if that
Yes,
is
Pay
necessary.
for Online Tutoring provides interpretation in 4 languages,
Sam?
and Spanish is one.
Sam?
I got a question too. So, I'm not a teacher, so this is just my understanding of what I see with the 8-period day. So if we have an 8-period day for all 3 schools, correct?
Yes.
So with that being said, I see it on slide number 8. The only difference will be the MSA and the 100 invitations to scholars, correct? With that being said, have you forecasted an increase in those numbers since we already had the 8-period day? And the only things that's keeping us from increasing those numbers will be the 3 bullet points on slide number 8, which is weighted GPA, increased rigor in coursework, and the IB. Is that correct to say?
Will you repeat? I was following up
Okay,
until a
so
point.
we have an 8-period day, correct?
Yes.
So my understanding was that PMSA has always had an 8-period day,
Mhm.
correct? With the increased rigor and IB added to it, correct?
Yes.
That's what PMSA has always been.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have 8-period day at West and 8-period day at East, correct?
Yes.
So why do we only have 100 invitations for the MSA? Is it staffing, and why do we see increase or forecasting that increase in the near future, being that it's only those 3 bullet points, the GPA, the coursework, and the IB?
It is a selective enrollment process. And by such, you do want to ensure that the students who are entering the MSA programs can, in fact, keep up with the rigor of a Math and Science Academy program. And therefore, we cap it because we believe that the cut score that was established based on the applicant pool were such that students could perform at a high level in the MSA program.
The reason I say this is just that many times when applicants apply, you could have people fall within that 4.9%, while the 5% and not make it to the 100, if you know what I mean. So you got a good 5% that's almost willing and able to do the rigor. So that's my question. Are we forecasting an increase on the 100 invitations since we already have an 8-period day, which allows for increased rigor in the classroom, even if you're not MSA? Are we forecasting an increase on the 100 invitations?
That is a decision left up to our superintendent. He tasked us with looking at 275 for PMSA and 100 each for the academies at the.
You see what I'm saying, Doc? You already
Yes.
got the foundation, the base of the 8-period day,
Uh-huh.
and all you needed is to apply the IB and the rigor to maybe not the whole school, but maybe increase those numbers, depending, I mean, because we always had this, we had this for years, right? Since we started 2 years ago? Since we started,
You mean with the
MSA,
Yeah,
right?
we'll look into that, Doc.
Yeah, that was just my question, because when parents ask me, I'm like, well, you know, they got the 8-period day like PMSA, but we're still on the 100 invites for MSA at East and West.
So the
Many
rigor,
students almost make it. My son was one of those a long time ago.
so the IB program is open to any student. So whether or not you made it into, or you were accepted or invited to an MSA program, IB is still accessible for you. AP is accessible for you as well. There are some students who outperform the students who are invited to our MSA academies that choose not to enroll in an MSA program. So there are a wide variety of students and reasons why they wouldn't go into the MSA academies, but they do still have access to rigorous courses. They still have access to IB, they still have access to AP.
And do they know that? I mean,
We are
get the letter
doing,
that they didn't make it, it'll probably all, you know, they'll be
Yes,
Uh,
so we did include that in the letter, where we had to send our regrets to some students, that you still have an opportunity to take rigorous courses. And I would add CTE in there as a rigorous course, so there are other opportunities for students.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question since we're talking about, Math Science Academy. When you do the acceptance, when the students fill out the application, is there a line there for them to check whether they want to go to PMSA, Forest Park,
Yes.
PMSA? And so are parents aware of how that works? Because here's what I found is the student may go and check PMSA East. And then what happened is, I can speak specifically for myself, I get all these calls where parents says, no, I wanted them to go to PMSA Forest Park, not understanding that you're pretty much offering the same thing. And one of the things I've said is, are you looking for a building or are you looking for a program? Because all three schools have the same thing. Is that being explained to parents on how, and I think you've talked about it, I covered it a little bit, how is determined who goes to Forest Park School versus who goes to Proviso East, Proviso West? Is it based off of a student checked Proviso East or Proviso West? What exactly is it based off of? 'Cause I hear how you score, and then I hear I've heard that it's what the kid checked.
Yes, so we, in October and right before the application period opened, we conducted numerous webinars that outlined the application process, outlined that on the application you could choose between PMSA, Forest Park, and the two MSA programs at either East or West. That is also embedded in the application that parents complete. So they chose which program they were most interested in being invited to, if they met the criterion.
So the parents check that off, not the student.
The parents had to electronically sign on the application, yes.
So the parents sign, so what you're saying is parents probably should read over it? I mean, who's telling them? Because what happens is, yeah, they sign it, but they didn't read that you checked Proviso East, and then when they get the letter stating that you've been accepted, and they find out that it's not accepted at PMSA Forest Park, that just, and they'll say things like, I didn't know. I didn't even see that. How are we making sure that parents know and see that?
So part of our communication plan, what were the webinars, the live webinars, the open houses that we held here at MSA. We were very clear about the choices that parents had regarding the application period. We have a dedicated email account, a dedicated phone line that is answered primarily by Ms. Marino. She's reported that she received over 1,000 or so emails and numerous other calls to help clarify for parents during the admissions process and before any decisions were made. She fielded many, 1,000 or so calls and emails regarding that. So the communication plan was trifold, quadruple-fold. Webinars, in-person meetings, flyers, information on social media, the application itself, which outlined you are applying for PMSA Forest Park, you are applying for the MSA program at East or West.
Dr. Henderson, has there been any thought on, and I've said this before, you have one shot at it as an 8th grader. Where a student go to Proviso East or whatever, didn't get into Math and Science Academy, but want to transfer at a later date, a later time, sophomore year. Have we looked into how that's possible? Those are questions that I've gotten. How do they transfer? Whitney Young, you can transfer in. Walter Payton, you can transfer in.
Yes, let me address that, Ms. Patterson. That's a great question. Do I have in the audience any of my roundtable students?
Mr. Torres is here.
Mr. Torres? Okay, good. I'm happy to share with you, board, that we are in conversation with the roundtable right now around a process. So yes, we're looking at that. And hopefully we'll have that ready.
By next month.
Okay. Glad you
What
were
about
back.
What about
Good answer, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
What
Any
about
other questions,
external?
any more questions?
Yes,
I think there was a question down here. Rodney, you had a question? Okay. Ms. Medina?
what about external transfer students? So students who have been IB students or higher level academic students. Are we looking to start taking, because people do move into the area and they have been in a more rigorous type of, and it's been, we've typically not allowed that transfer in.
That's the same thing I'm asking.
Yes, that's the exact same thing you're asking, Ms. Patterson. And yes, we are looking at all students at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Yeah, I could attest to your flyers. I went to pick up my son the other day at one of the schools in Merle's and 8th graders, and our flyers were there right by the window.
Wonderful.
So good job.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Maybe you could put the flyer, make sure you choose your school a little bigger, little letter. Yeah, they were there.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Valdez. Dr. K?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, President Patterson, Board, and Dr. Henderson. Good evening, and community members. Good evening. So this evening, we're going to talk about our programs that we have for Proviso Township High School, and we have the alternative learning opportunity programs that we have partnered with West 40. That's our intermediate service center, and it's been in operation since 2015. And the programs that we have are Dream, Peace, Senior Plus, and of course our evening school. And I will talk about those programs so everybody knows what they are and where they are located. The first program is the Dream program, and the Dream program is students who are credit deficient. Their credits are recovered during the school day, and it's located at the student's home school. Students are assigned an advocate for support, and the advocate communicates with the parents and the faculty, and they hold the student accountable, and they help them with their growth and their success. That program is limited to 160 students per school. The enrollment that we have for Proviso East is 147 students, and 2 are pending to get into the program. For Proviso West, we have 109 students, 12 are pending to get in, and those numbers are as of February 3rd. The Seniors Plus program are for students that are in their 5th year, and some students are in their later years that still have not graduated, and they're looking to get their graduation requirements so that they can get their diploma. It is limited to 40 students. We have 2 sessions, an AM and a P session and a PM session daily. They are located at the Peace Center at the Proviso East campus. The current enrollment for Proviso East is 19 students, and for Proviso West, we have 32 students. The Peace program is for the at-risk students. Those are the students that have behavior-related issues that need a smaller setting. It is limited to 60 students during the 2 daily sessions. It still has an AM and a PM session. The program can be in lieu of expulsion. The administration is recommended for those students to come into that program. The enrollment for Proviso East is 17 students, and the program at Proviso West has 9 students in there as of the January 30th. And we also have the evening school, and it's very important that everybody understands that it is not an alternative high school. Our evening school is a high school that operates in an alternative time. It is for our students that need an alternative environment to obtain their high school diploma. Our enrollment right now for the 2nd semester is 29 students. And we have our students so far have completed 65 credits. We have 11 students that are on track to graduate in June. 4 are expected to graduate after summer school, and 4 are going to be potential graduates for our Senior Plus program. So they're doing quite well, and our numbers are growing. We also have something that we're piloting in our evening school program, and it's called Rethink Ed. This is a program, actually our teachers, and you might see something this evening. We had a video. They were being trained on Saturday. We had 10 teachers being trained. And they are teachers that are transforming students and teachers in the way they think, the way they learn, the way they develop and succeed in school and in life. It's a social emotional learning for all our students. They are training the staff to step-by-step behaviors and interventions to empower students, and it's a skill-based curriculum that will help the students be aware of themselves, self-management, make them more autonomous for social awareness, self-care, social emotional learning. So when they have personal issues, they know how to respond and react. It's a blended model that they can do on-site approach and virtual learning. And it builds effectiveness during instruction. And we're training teachers on how to do it, and it sets the foundation for learning, and it's part of the MTSS program. So multi-tier support services that we're going to be doing during the day. So we are starting it in the evening school so we can help the children that have issues with problems, crisis interventions, and this way, when they're autonomous and they know if something is bothering them, they will be able to get the supports from their teachers. So we're just starting that out, and we just want to introduce it to you. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Are the evening schools, are they staffed with any teachers?
Yes, of course.
Certified teachers?
Yes, our
At
teachers.
both locations?
Our teachers.
Our teachers are going to the evening school?
Mhm.
How many?
10. We have a total of employees 10. That's counselors, social worker, teachers, everybody.
Okay. And which of the two locations, the PLCCA or the Firehouse Stream, which one of the two are more impactful right now?
The BLCCA has not started yet in our evening school.
Okay, so just the Firehouse Stream has?
We are located at the East Campus for the evening
So
school.
now we're doing it at East.
We're at the East Campus, our evening school, yes.
Okay.
Okay?
And the other thing that I had a question about was in regards to the rethink.
We're just starting that out. We just started the training on Saturday.
Okay, correct.
So it's,
We used to engage in restorative justice, and it looks like very similar. Why wouldn't we bring more in-depth restorative justice?
this is not restorative justice. This is social emotional support for our
Restorative justice
students.
does do a lot of the social emotional with the peace circles and with the,
Okay,
it has all that social emotional component.
okay, this is more academics. This is more tier 1 supports. This is slightly different. What you're talking about is when students have problems, when they're fighting. This is more academics. When tier 1 supports, when there's a problem with students failing classes, when they need more supports and they need more interventions, that's what we're talking about here. Okay? Thank you.
Let me take this time and this opportunity to
Dr. Wood. I'm sorry.
thank Dr. Deborah Diana Thomas. She's doing a phenomenal job with the evening school. For many, many years, she actually ran evening school at Proviso. At that point in time, it was at Proviso West. So I want to commend her for the time and effort that she put in to even get this program up and running. And I've had an opportunity to speak with some students that live in the community that are actually really enjoying that they have the evening school option. Don't even want to come back to day school at all and have done well. So, kudos to Diana Thomas.
So currently, there's only one action item for your consideration this evening, and that is for us to ensure that dual enrollment options are available for students at all 3 campuses. You can see the estimated cost at $32,000, and this will ensure that at least 60 students can participate in the fall, spring, and summer sessions at Triton for dual enrollment. And the investment of $32,000 covers their course fees and materials and supplies for those courses.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh.
I'll give you a hand first.
My question about the Triton dual enrollment courses, how are these being marketed to students so they know to sign up?
So Dr. Brandon and Dr. Carvallis are working with our new coordinator of counseling, Ms. Stowers, to ensure that our counselors are aware of the opportunities that students have in this area, and so that's how we're coordinating that recruitment effort. We're in the middle of master scheduling now, which is an important part of that recruitment process to make sure that counselors know all of the options students have, and dual enrollment is one of those.
So is that only limited to 60 children, students, or did you just 60 apply?
So we're looking at approximately 60, and this 32,000 is an approximate cost. If there are more students who are interested, certainly we can make sure that we have enough funds to ensure students can take the courses. This was just an estimate based on previous enrollments.
So we used to have an agreement with Triton that any student that wanted to take a class in Triton, what happened to that agreement that we had? Was that terminated, or?
We still do.
We still have that?
Hmm.
But with that, we could do dual enrollment. What's the difference between that dual enrollment and that agreement and this one then? Is it the same thing?
It's the same thing. Right.
Okay, just want to make sure.
It has to be updated.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing?
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. All right, board, we have with us this evening Dr. Jay Kaneen. As you all met him last year, along with Mesero, and we're going to hear from them next. Dr. Kaneen.
Thank you.
We really are excited about the work that Dr. Kaneen and Mesero working in tandem. And Dr. Hickey.
Yes. Thank you. We did send up the electronic version.
That's Tad Kraskowski, and I'm Melanie Castellanos. Our names are on the front.
You've been here before?
I have.
Yeah, I've seen you in a long time.
A little while. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
That can be good.
Good evening, Madam President, school board members. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's to you.
Put on my red shirt for Valentine's Day, so I'd be all set. Dr. Henderson said, this is good news. And it is good news. And I'll tell you why. And we can look at the bullet points that are on, I believe it's page 3, that say what the good news is. The first part of the good news is $71 million to become available to not complete your task, because I don't think your task is ever going to be completed, to have your buildings exactly the way you want it, but to make some tremendous improvements in the physical nature of the building, in air, in all the projects LT has for you, and it'll keep improving your students' performances because they will have a better environment. So Dr. Henderson gave us a unique challenge. He said, get that $71 million, but do these other bullet points. And the first bullet point is unique. And I'm sure Mesero will tell you that a number of districts say, how much money can we raise? And never thinking about what impact it could have on the taxpayers. It's not what Dr. Henderson gave us as a charge because he heard me. And he said, we need to consider our taxpayers in this whole operation. So just don't automatically use all the tools that you can do that would invariably raise taxes. So now get that $71 million, but don't pass it on to the taxpayer. The second one was to keep our fund balances the same and keep sufficient money for our operating funds. And so in order to do this, we needed to put aside money right from our state aid and dedicate it to bond reduction and tax relief. And we were able to do that. We were able to do that for a couple of reasons. One, and again, he was very clear on this, he said, we need to be more efficient. We need to take leadership in the business, in the financial department, and not just be passive. I used an analogy, we need to be pitchers rather than catchers. And we need to make sure, and I'm going to guarantee you this, board, that's what he told me I better do, work with our business office to maximize all our resources and to be efficient in our spending of dollars. To have a budget that really is tight, but good tight. Good tight means you decide on how every dollar will be spent. And you hold everybody accountable for that. And we've started that process right now. We've started looking at this, and let me just get you through the graphs here. Well, let's go to page 4. Page 4 says, is that 3 or 4? That's a graph. This one. How do we get to $71 million? 2 different ways. And that's this page here, which you're looking at. And there are ones that come directly from the BNI, the Bond and Interest Fund. He said, hey Jay, you just said we're not going to raise taxes. I'll get to that because we're not. The other fund is to use state aid to pay off the debt directly. And to maximize that $71 million, we had to use both. Correct? So.
Title I money?
Pardon me?
Does that mean Title I money?
No.
Can we wait until he's
Yes.
done with the questions, Ms. Medina, please?
Okay, let's go to this next graph.
Please.
On this next graph, if everybody would look at that red line, most districts would take the green and add it to the tax rolls. Because government understands that there is additional cost, and they put in tax caps that red line, where school districts can advance and continue to borrow a little bit more money every year. Well, what happens to that? That goes right on your tax bill. So what are we going to do? You see the black line? That's the existing payments that come from property tax owners. We are not going to raise that existing payments. We are putting a ceiling on it, and we will be using existing state funds, not federal funds, to pay those portion of the bonds and not pass it on to the taxpayer. Crucial. And again, Mazur will tell you, I will tell you as a consultant, there are lots of boards that don't put the priority of the taxpayer number one. This plan does. The second graph says, how about the payment directly from, we say EBF, which is state aid, and that goes directly to the bonds and it alleviates the bonds. What kind of commitment are we asking you to make on that? $4.5 million a year. So if you look at the next page, you will see that an abatement, giving money so that taxpayers don't have to pay this, starts in fiscal year 24, which is very close to being a reality.
Doctor?
Yes.
Go to the next page. There we go. That has the 4.5 on it.
Okay, this one, yes, I skip a page?
No.
Okay, so $4.5 million there goes directly from state money to abate these bonds. And the key question that Dr. Henderson said is, can we make that commitment for that $4.5 million? Show me how we can be assured that we can make that commitment of $4.5 million. So what he did is challenge us to put a 5-year plan together that we could share with you that says, this is how that is made. And that's the last page. And it shows, and we can share with you, this spreadsheet after spreadsheet.
No. They're gonna have to go back.
Yeah, you can go back.
That's a slightly different version, okay.
Here's the page. That's the one we want you to look at now. Yeah, we're going back and forth here. Sorry about that. But this is the page that says, we can give you assurances that we can make this commitment for $4.5 million every year that does those things that we've talked about. Generate $71 million, does not affect our operating fund. We've kept the operating fund with growth in expenditures and realistic growth in revenues and still work out. You've made a commitment to these buildings over the last few years. A real major commitment. And I don't know if you've been recognized and thanked for that commitment, but you have. Now, the only difference is, now you're going to get an upfront commitment of $70 million. Before this, you were doing it annually. Now you're getting that $71 million upfront. And yes, you're going to pay a little interest on it. A little more than we would like. But the key is, the work is done, and you know what inflation has been doing to cost. Getting it done now will be a lot cheaper than getting it done 3 or 4 years from now. So the project is what I believe is a great news project, and we will become pitchers in the finance department. We will be holding everyone accountable for all the spending, and we've got some good grant people here. We've had some wonderful meetings, maximizing not only state grants, but federal grants to bring this district the most money we can get. With that, I'll answer any questions.
I got a question.
Sure.
So the Fed just increased the 25 basis points just recently this month, right? And in trying to control inflation, the CPI came out today, it's not what was forecasted. With that being said, bonds are, the 2 years paying a lot more than the 10-year. Is this one of the reasons we're able to do this right now? Because they are calling for a recession in the future. We are in a soft recession. I say we're in a recession for 22nd, 3rd quarter this year. So would this affect us if the Fed went back and stabilized inflation to a normal, 2-3%, a normal 2%, which is usually what it is? Would this affect us on our yearly?
I think that's a better measurable question, because those are the guys with the interest rate, so.
Would that affect us on our yearly payments? Or would that all be completed and done if we actually went through it and went with the commitment before anything else changes out in the market?
Sure. Okay, well, let me try to, you asked kind of a lot of questions.
Sorry.
So let me try to recognize everything. So first off, the Federal Reserve, okay, you may hear Jerome Powell has the Federal Reserve right now, okay? So since January of 2022, right, the Fed now has increased short-term interest rate, that's the overnight rate, right, about 4.5%, right, that's where the Fed funds rate is right now. So from 0 to 4.5%. So quick note there, what that does for issuers or municipal bodies like Proviso is it allows you to invest your liquid cash, your township school treasurer does that, at much, much higher rates. So you're getting, additions to operating monies from the good short-term investment environment. Right, exactly. When you borrow under a plan like this, okay, you are borrowing at longer-term interest rates. Right? You saw the graphs that went out 20 years with that. And the Fed, right now, just to support your thought, the Fed has succeeded, right, in pushing longer-term interest rates down thus far with the increases in short-term rates, right? It's forcing the long end of the yield curve, I don't want to get too technical here, down, and that's more favorable for borrowing under a program like this. Now, if you're going to ask me to predict where interest rates can go, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that the longer-term interest rates that you would borrow at for this plan have gone down roughly 0.5% since the beginning of December. So that's a good news that allows you to get more money out of the existing debt service.
So we're getting higher interest rates on our fund balances and not paying that penalty for the higher interest rates on our long-term debt.
Exactly. That's part of the dynamic. The other thing here that Dr. Kenny mentioned that we always talk about here is inflation, cost inflation on the projects that you are doing, right? It's likely, I've heard figures 6, 7, 8% per year. I do some capital projects for a board that I'm involved in, right? And when that inflation rate is above the rate you can borrow at, right, it makes sense to borrow and accelerate those projects or get them done before that cost shows up on your capital project. Right? That's really the dynamic that we're experiencing right now, and why various governmental bodies are still, even though interest rates are, there's no doubt interest rates are up a little bit since the beginning of 2022, inflation is relatively high, so they're saying, we're at a point where we'd rather stop the inflation on our project cost and pay a little bit more in interest because the savings on the inflation for the project cost far exceeds the slight increase in borrowing costs. I hope that's helping a little bit.
I just have a question. Are these,
You have the floor, Ms. Medina. Please acknowledge the chair. Thanks.
the tax-free, are these tax-free interest funds?
Yes. Municipal units of government who use the proceeds for public purposes, right? All of your purposes here are public purposes that the community will reap the benefits of. They can borrow those on a tax-exempt basis, correct?
And what rate are we getting on that?
In this point in time, depending on market conditions, should be in the area of 3.5% to 4% for this finance plan.
And my second question is, for the FY 2024, it looks like, is that 78 million, is that our budget, 78 million? Because right now we're at 104, so I'm not understanding.
No, that's fund balance. That's our fund balance.
Okay, this is since it said budget, I thought that was the overall.
No, it said budget.
Okay, so fund balance for operations?
Fund balance for all accounts, all funds. So if you look at your position statement and where you are every year at the end of fiscal year '22, you essentially had $73 million in fund balances, in your ed fund, in your building fund. If you add up all those funds, you have $73 million.
94.
Well, this came from your AFR. It's 73 million, 74 million. This came from the AFR that we're given. If you saw a budget that said 96 million, that was a budget that we looked at, and we are revising that budget to more reflect where we're at. $74 million at the end of last year, goes down a little, 71, because you made some payments. You got the pipe that ruptured and all of those kinds of things. That was 3.9 million. So it will result, after 5 years, we're projecting 97 million in this. But this came from your AFR, and then we did a very thorough job in looking at the budget and analyzing it. And again, we will have those documents for you to review.
And your AFR is approved by the state, is that correct?
That's correct. It's your auditors. Your auditors come through, give you the final number. We're kind of late on that. We need to be a little bit earlier on that, and we're going to be earlier on that. But yes, it is going to the state. The state approves it, so those are the numbers you go to the bank with.
I just want the record to reflect that it is approved in the state of Illinois.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I don't want
Yes,
people to get it.
yes, and an independent auditor too. That's
That's
key
correct.
for you. That's
Correct.
not 209 doing that. That's your outside person coming in and looking at the books and saying, this is what the books say.
Any other questions?
Yeah, board member, the reason I asked that question, just, after so many, after this past year, the construction, being in the facilities committee, there's been cost increase after cost increase, so this is some good news. I was just telling Nello, this is crazy how the economy is not good for many, but it's good for this. And it's just amazing how things work. If the economy was not like this, this would not work our way.
That's what we,
Right. So that's why I asked the question, if the economy with all this short-term interest rate hikes to control inflation because the bonds right now are if you want to miss the recession and save your money, you'll buy bonds instead of stocks, and So that's why I asked the question, because after this past year and a half of rate hikes on our construction projects, it really kind of drained us a lot, and this will actually help us. So this is great news despite the way the economy is. So that's why I asked that question. I want to understand myself, how can this be possible? It's because of the bonds and the way
it was a very good question, and I know Mr. Moody is smiling back there because that was one of his points too. So.
Madam President.
Reggie?
Okay, I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Henderson. Regardless of the economy, and if you agree, just nod. It takes some type of leadership and vision to actuate that economy and actuate these types of programs in the midst of it. So we can have a great economy. We can have a great economy and these programs out there, but without the leadership and the foresight and the vision to actuate them, it really doesn't matter. So I want to thank you guys for Dr. Henderson, first of all, having the forethought and the insight to actuate this and have you guys tasked you with putting this together for the district and the township. I don't think people really grasp, and it's really a shame that they don't really grasp the gravity of work that we're doing. We're $12 million under budget on our facility master plan as we speak. So in spite of COVID, in spite of the economy, Dr. Henderson and the team, Gilbane and all of our people that are working on behalf of the township have done their due diligence to make sure that we stay under budget and that we can provide better services to the community without having to also ask them to pay for it. So I just want to acknowledge that fact, that
I'm glad you did, he brought us all into his office and he sat for all these meetings and said, where are we with this state grant? Where are we with this federal grant? Where are we with these expenditures? That's what you have to have, you had to have leadership.
And Madam President, fellow board members, I just want, that's really no small task. That is really no small task. We're talking about $71 million. So, once again, Dr. Anderson, thank you. Thank you, Madam President, for your leadership too.
Madam President? Yeah, thank you, Dr. Henderson. I was in awe right now. I was like understanding a little bit about finance. I'm not a guru or anything, but I do understand that part of it. So I was like, what? Yeah, so thank you, sir, because it really takes a lot. It takes intelligence, wisdom, and understanding to be able to figure this out. And I'm just not, I don't give kudos out. You know I never do this. When have I done this in the last year? To nobody. So Dr. Henderson, thank you for this. This is something that I was like, wow, this is amazing. Thank
You know what the biggest challenge is? Making everybody realize how great this is.
Thank you.
You know, it really is, because all people do is, oh, my tax bills are going up, all this. And when a school district steps out, like you have, and comes with a plan that has taxpayers also in mind, it never gets publicity. This one isn't going to get publicity because it's good news and you don't want to make a deal over good news.
Exactly.
So we just keep.
Ms. Overman.
Hi, if we could go back to slide number 4, please, or page 4.
If we can figure out which one that is.
Sorry.
No, I know, but no, I was saying that one, yes, okay. Let's get to that one. It's better if we can just show it. No, not that one.
Back one more.
No,
Back.
no,
There.
that one. Right?
Yes, thank you. So just to be really clear, the $41.5 million and then the $29.5 million, that new project money, exactly where is that coming from?
The 41.5 comes from what they say is local funds. So that comes through a bond procedure that in actuality would have been passed right on to the taxpayer.
Okay, so we're buying bonds?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. And that 29.5, is that also, or no?
No, that's different because that one doesn't go directly to the taxpayer. That comes directly from, we have to give a funding source. And the funding source we give is EDF funds. So we're doing some, maybe you could call tax anticipation. We're anticipating this EDF state aid and we're paying the bonds off of that.
Okay. So my follow-up question is, a few years ago, and I think Todd, you were here when we did this, we also bought bonds to get started with our facilities master plan.
Yes.
How do those bonds and the payment on those bonds factor into this new plan to pay off this?
Sure, totally. Can I?
Yes.
Speak to that. Can I advance the slides? I think I can do that. Here. Okay. So very good question, and consistent with what your objectives are right now. If you look at this graph, the dark blue bars, right, that represents, if you did nothing, okay, under this plan, the debt service that you would be left with, meaning the levy, right, that is currently on the books, would be where that black line is. And you see how those blue bars, where we're at right now, fit right under that. That's roughly $6 million that is on the levy right now. The finance plan here for this portion, as Dr. Kaneen said, okay, is comprised of the green and the light purple bars here, so it wraps around your existing debt service. But when we drew that black line right across the page, saying that's the sacred line that we're not going to cross as far as taxes go. So the green lines above that, while it is legal to put that on the tax rolls under tax caps, this plan, to be extra taxpayer conservative, says, we're not going to levy for that. We're going to take some of the evidence-based funding money, okay, and we're going to pay the amounts that go above that black line so that we keep the tax rate absolutely level. For the light purple bars here, right? You see how those wrap around, there's a little bit under, above the blue bars, and then there are 4 years at the end. You're able to go out 20 years, okay, for, under state law, so you'll just continue that levy here for $6 million for the life of this proposed bond issue, and anything above, right, that purple bar will be paid with the evidence-based funding.
And what is the projected life for this?
This would be a 20-year, these are 20-year financings, yeah. Yes.
Excuse me, okay, sorry, I'm a little dry in here.
Sure.
So this, the evidence-based funding, if we weren't using it to pay down this new bond debt, what would we be doing with that money?
You would be investing it in your buildings. You would be making these repairs on an annual basis every year, not getting the benefit of the bang for the buck coming right away. You would be taking those dollars and doing the repairs every year rather than having it one time and then paying it off.
I have another question, just because Amanda asked that question. So, when we first started our facilities master plan, our previous administration refinanced some bonds. Is this something that's possible on this actual 20-year, on this transaction here, to call it? So we refinanced those bonds, and that's how we were able to get some of that money, because we got.
You could call this a refinance right now.
No,
We're not taking any bonds and refinancing it because those are at a low rate right now, and it only makes sense to refinance bonds.
No, the reason it clicked, because I remember we refinanced some, I don't remember exactly, but we refinanced some existing bonds that
Yes.
brought us these 77 million. Right, we did some debt restructuring, and we lowered our rate, and we were able to cash out on some of the money because our interest rate was lower. Would this be something that could be done in the future with this restructuring?
I think there's two questions there, and let me make sure that I recognize what your questions are. First, it is true for the prior financings that were done, probably in the area of 2015 to 18, right in that range, right? You refinanced some outstanding higher interest rate bonds, okay, and freed up millions of dollars of savings that were then deployed right into your facilities, right? You, instead of taking that savings directly as a reduction in debt service, you reinvested it in your facilities, okay? So that is what you did then. Right now, with these blue bars, if you're asking, can we refinance those at lower interest rates? The answer is no, because those are at pretty low interest rates right now. Well, the green would be the proposed new debt right now. The blue bars are what in place. But if you put this finance plan in place, right, the new financing will have a refunding option in there so that if interest rates go down in the future, then yes, you'll be able to do the same thing that you did back in the mid.
I think that's what we had.
10, 15 to 18, yeah.
It was a 20 or 15 year.
Right.
Right.
So it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, you took advantage of good market conditions then. Unfortunately, they're not quite as good now, but they're certainly way better than inflation on projects.
So I'm saying 10 years from now, you know, whatever board sits here, they probably do the same too.
There will be an option in there on the documents that allow it. Yes.
One of the keys, though, before I shut up, is to keep in mind, though, the money we are making on higher interest. That we invest our money and get interest payments. And those are kind of balancing out. So even though it isn't the best of times to borrow, it still is advantageous for the district to pursue this now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really do want to thank Dr. Fanine and Mesereau. We sat in there and did what we had to do along with the finance department. We thank you. Thank you. All right. Mr. Lewis, will you present that last slide?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
And happy Valentine's Day, even to me. This presentation is very, very brief. As the board knows, we've been communicating about it. Property taxes are coming in slow. Otherwise, we look a whole lot healthier than we do right now. All we can do is blame Cook County, but we're still in a very prosperous and healthy fiscal position. And I'll answer any questions the board may have. Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanna, so on the, it says that our fund balance, total fund balance, is it $82 million?
Right, that's my forecast.
That's your forecast, right?
Yes.
So that's, so our fund balance is, the forecast for end of year is gonna be, like, what's that percentage is gonna be like,
Oh, gosh,
89%?
correct.
And so our,
Very strong financial.
very strong, because like our policy is that we have a minimum 33%
Oh, gosh.
fund balance, so we're at almost like 90%.
Yes,
Fund
yes.
balance. Our fund balances are really healthy.
And as Dr. King alluded to, we're leaning heavily on the grants, both federal and state, making sure expenditures land where they're supposed to land. And we're gonna be not better than this, but at least right here. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
So my understanding is, yes, when we had that healthy fund balance, we also have to have a certain amount of money of cash in.
Rule of thumb is 25%.
Right.
25% of your expenditures, and we're
Right.
far exceeding that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Mr. Taylor and your team, please. Perkins and Will and Gilbane.
Good evening, President, Vice President, Secretary, Board of Education, Dr. Henderson, and colleagues. Tonight we have two presentations for you, one from Perkins and Will and one from Gilbane. We'll talk about student visits down at Perkins and Will with the design team, security projects, and also we'll talk about the construction punch list. Gilbane will be wrapping up the punch list, showing a few pictures of our curves over at Proviso West High School, speaking to some of our key RFIs and economic inclusion to ensure that we're in line with the district goals related to inclusion for all. At this time, I'd like to bring Perkins and Will up.
You only have 5 minutes, Perkins and Will.
All right, we'll go fast. Let's do it. Good evening, Mike Goldberg from Perkins and Will, and I will go as quickly as I can here. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. We're going to give an update, as LT said, on a few items here. A recent student visit to our office, some updates on the security projects underway, initial project studies that we're continuing to investigate, as well as some updates on some construction punch list items. So we had the opportunity and the honor of hosting some students from Proviso schools. Representatives from all 3 schools were at our office earlier mid-month in January to take a tour of the office, learn a little bit more about what it takes to be in the design and construction industry. We were able to provide them with some lunch presentation on who we are as a firm, and discuss some of the work that we've done globally as well as in the district, and then answer some of their questions of the profession, and have a real good opportunity to talk about some of the planning ideas that they have that as we move into updating the overall facility master plan, what things they might be looking for so we can continue to add some student voice into that work. An update, we're continuing on designing and implementing security improvements at all 3 schools, including improvements to access control, that is door monitoring and door access systems throughout the buildings, as well as closed circuit camera systems throughout. So again, we're in the design process for both the access control and the camera upgrade process. Moving through that to having bids completed early in the first or second quarter of this year. The scope includes additions to previously completed access control at all 3 campuses. You see here all the door scope in the red dots that will be in this phase of work. That includes, a vast majority of the rest of the exterior doors throughout the campuses, as well as at East and at PMSA. We are also upgrading the backbone for the security cameras throughout the district to provide a new head-end system at each school that ties everything together with a major hub here at PMSA. That also takes advantage of a lot of the infrastructure that was built into the parking lots that were redone or established at all 3 campuses so that we can extend the current camera systems in those parking lot areas as well. I'm going to hand it over to Carl quickly to go over some preliminary projects.
Good evening, board. I'm just going to touch on a few preliminary project studies that we are reviewing with the district. These are just related to various sources of information, various suggestions that have been made to the design and construction team. And rather than focusing on any one particular project, just to explain the process, when a potential project or idea for a project comes up that the district would like us to explore, we develop a design narrative, and then it is provided to Gilbane for estimating and budgeting, and then the district gets to make a decision on whether or not to pursue these projects. So just to highlight a couple that we're looking at Proviso West, there is looking at continuing expansion of the career technical education program and the possible creation of a CTE wing. As we've talked before, when we were discussing HVAC expansion project, there were ideas that the culinary lab would be upgraded sometime in the future. There's some also additional opportunities for welding labs to be created, as well as a diesel electric vehicle lab, along with upgrades to the West Auto Shop. Similarly at East, Personnel was asked to look at what it would take to reactivate the existing pool that is on the first floor of Building B. And so we developed a very schematic program to bring accessible access to the pool, as well as creation of and upgrades of the existing locker rooms and pool equipment. Again, this design narrative has been provided to Gilbane, and they're currently in the process of developing a construction estimate that will be reviewed and discussed among the design team and the district. The last item I want to touch on here is just the punch list item review, and this is just to give you a little overview of our role during construction and contract administration. There were a couple of items that we were asked to highlight. The first is related to the new curbs at the teacher's parking lot. During review, during substantial completion inspection, and in discussion with the district, and agreed by the construction team, there were some curbs that did not meet the standard for construction tolerances as set by the IDOT standards for specification of road and bridge construction. And so the contractor was notified of this, and the construction team is working towards resolution and correction of this work. Similarly, at Proviso East, during some heavier rain events, it was noticed there was some ponding in the new parking lot. There are standards, again, based on established tolerances made by IDOT for what type of ponding is acceptable at these lots, and there are a few areas where it's noticed that the ponding exceeds what would be a typical construction tolerance. Again, the design team notified the construction team, and corrective action is currently being strategized and will be enacted by the responsible contractor. Any questions on any of the material that Personnel will cover here?
Yeah, I have not a question, more like a comment to my fellow board members. So we discussed this during our facilities committee meeting, and just to reiterate what was discussed, as you can see, some of these curves and asphalt parking lots, you see that water retainage there just because of poor compaction before the asphalt is put on there. Usually that's what causes that. And then the curves not being straight, that's the QA/QC process, quality assurance and quality control process. We sometimes mark our milestones and mark, what quality we're going to accept. So I was telling the team at the facilities committee that, as the school district, as our scholars, and as a board member, just being one board member, that we will not take any substandard work, because now what happens with this ponding of the water, they gotta cut a section and then resurface it, which will give you a brand new asphalt driveway patch look, which is not acceptable. So I told the team that, we're not gonna accept any patches. They have to figure out a way to do a section, even if you have to cut in between the yellow line, the parking spots to hide that cut. As a board member, I told them, and as a chair of the facility, that we will not accept any substandard work. Most of this work could have been done correctly if it was properly inspected and properly looked at before it was actually poured or right after. So that was just my comment to you. I'm only one board member, but that's my 2 cents on the facilities work that's being done. We're not accepting any substandard work. There has to be quality. And that's what I have to say.
Madam President?
Yes.
I have a question. We just replaced the teacher's parking lot at West, right?
Correct.
Why it is now, and we're saying the curbs are not, that's not a part of the park, that wasn't a part of the parking lot work, the curb?
That was part of the parking lot work, and this is a punch list item related to that project.
Oh, so when you say punch list item, Sam, is this what you're
Yeah,
referring
it was
to?
not, it's not how it was supposed to be straight.
So
We did
this
some
is why,
tolerance.
this is what you're referring to as a
Right,
basic
so-
part. So this was a part, this was done over the summer
Right.
with the teacher's lot?
It was.
just didn't come out right?
Correct.
So who's gonna pay?
So
who's
per
gonna-
IDOT, they did not meet the
So here's the next question, who pays for those repairs or that fixing?
The contractor pays for that repair, and the team collectively together noticed that, and we want to be transparent to bring those items to you guys, to the board members and the superintendent.
Okay, thank you, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, we have requested during our facilities committee that our process controls for our QAQC should be reviewed to try to eliminate some of this. Because it's gonna cost the contractor eventually, it's gonna cost us, because they might come back at us with something else later. Just the way construction works. If that parking lot was compacted and tested, this would not happen. It might happen to a lower degree, but like they said, it did not meet IDOT standards, so that's what we're worried about. If it did meet IDOT standards, then we have to kind of say it's okay, but it did not meet it, so, the contractor has to pay for it. So I did request in the facilities committee that we have to improve our QAQC process, just to, eliminate a lot of these issues that we're having with these projects that don't come out with good quality. That's what we're not.
Yeah, we totally understand, and we're gonna make sure that we push hard to make sure we get a satisfactory product in which the district pays for. Any other questions? I will bring Michelle McClinton up from BOE.
Good evening. I am Michelle McClinton, presenting for BOE Construction, our facilities update. To update on the punch list, I know that President Will presented some of these items. I'll just touch upon our intention to repair them over the spring break and/or as we begin to work in the summer. 2021 projects. D3 is our controls contractor. They're completing some troubleshooting on the graphics and the front end. Once completed, we will do our final training with the facilities team. Over at Proviso East, Abbey Paving was out last summer to adjust the grade under the new fencing at the north parking lot. It still wasn't an acceptable resolution. We are retaining, they're holding money on Abbey Paving until they are able to come back out in the spring to further complete those adjustments as well. For the 2022 punch list for projects, the doors over at Proviso East, we are expecting them any day now. We have approximately 65 wood doors at various classrooms and offices that were scheduled to be installed, and we will hopefully install them again in the upcoming spring break or on the holidays when there's no school. The generator over at Proviso East, the pad for the generator will be installed during the summer break. We will not be able to complete the termination and the startup until school is out, and we will do that over the summer. As mentioned, the curbs over at Proviso East, we have been made aware of their inconsistencies. We have met with the contractor that did the work, and we will provide a remedial action plan to fix the waviness on the front side of the curbs accordingly. For the ponding issues over at West, same thing. We met with the contractor at the end of January. We noticed that there are some issues around the existing manholes that may be causing the water to stay behind. So we are taking a look at some of those settlement issues at low areas around the catch basins, and we will provide a remedial action plan accordingly. We were asked to provide some updates on RFIs or requests for information, just the progress of them from our 2022 projects over at West and East. On the left-hand side of the screen is Proviso West. The graph shows the blue are RFIs or questions that were opened at the beginning of the projects, and the gray or black bar indicates how quickly we are able to close them with the assistance of Perkins and Will. As you can see, as we get over the projects in the summer, we've got quite a few questions that come in, obviously because there's more contractors and trades working on the project. Perkins and Will is able to answer those questions or request for information accordingly. And as the projects wrap up, we're able to close out all of the RFIs for the projects and proceed accordingly. Economic inclusion update at the beginning of November. And that was really the conclusion of most of the programs or most of the projects for the summer. We had spent $5,211,758 with diverse firms. All of the diverse firms that we have been able to include in the facilities master plan are noted on the screen. The W stands for woman-owned businesses, the M stands for minority-owned businesses, and the V stands for veteran-owned businesses. We're happy to report that for the upcoming work for the summer, we are well over 20% of that contract will be provided to diverse firms for the summer work. Last but not least, student engagement. We are excited that our student internship is back out. It was sent out the 1st of February. We are now accepting applications for 2 students to participate in the construction this summer. One lucky student will go over to Proviso East, another will go over to West, and the application is due April 1st. Students from all 3 campuses are eligible for the internship. We ask that the student be 16 years of older and able to get to their respective job sites at their schools accordingly. The internship will start right after school ends, so they'll get 5 full days of vacation, and they will start June 19th as the beginning of their internship, and it will wrap up at August the 11th. It is important to note they will have the same experience that our college interns have participating in the program for the duration of the summer. If you need more information, my email address and phone number is on the screen. We have posters up at most of the campuses. And if we need to provide some more to the superintendent's office, we will, but we are actively accepting applications. We also have 3 more opportunities for student engagement. Career shadow days, where students are able to come down to our offices and shadow some of our engineers, estimators, senior executives. I will provide several dates to the superintendent's office for those upcoming shadow days, and we will plan them accordingly. We also are proposing a safety stand-down where we will come to you with our tradesmen and teach students about safety in construction. And then last but not least, college days and career fairs. We would like to be a partner with you all, participating in your career fairs, as many times students have questions with what majors should they be looking at when they want to pursue a career in construction or architecture. It's important to note that even though we're a construction firm, we hire accountants, analysts, etc., and we're excited to teach Proviso students about that. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Madam President?
Yes, go ahead.
Did you say 20% of the work over the summer will be, those contracts will go to minority, women, or veteran?
Yes, I do.
20%, I believe our requirement was 15?
That is correct.
So you've exceeded it by 5%?
We have exceeded it this summer, yes.
I see.
We try.
Thank you.
Rodney, in all transparency, during our facilities committee, Michelle did bring up, I remember Michelle, you brought in some kind of software or some kind of platform to actually further dissect the actual economic inclusion of the companies you supply, correct? But there was a fee to that, and I told Michelle that absolutely no, we're not gonna pay for that because they weren't providing this information before. They now are providing it, so I think Michelle, you probably just took it out, right? You didn't shut it
That's
down.
actually workforce tracking.
Workforce
I
tracking,
was
right?
reminded by the executive prior to me that that was actually presented to the board December of 2019, and that portion of the tracking was declined at that time.
December, okay. Right, so that's what the, that platform with the software was used for, just to dissect a little bit more about the economic inclusion. You take the companies and you actually extract the names and
The names of the workers physically walking into the project or into the schools to do the work.
right, so we spoke that, you know, that's something that we wouldn't pay, so I guess we turned it down in December, so I guess we had no issue with that. But in all transparency, that's why I told Michelle and the team during the facilities meeting that there was no way we were gonna pay for that, and I think the economic inclusion data that she just provided as a contract, that should be sufficient. Also, if you go back to the RFI, the reason I requested during our facilities to have an RFI review is just that the RFIs, request for information, sometimes these RFIs are costly, especially if they're, the RFIs sometimes show that either the architect or somebody made a review and they didn't write, the drawing had an issue with it, and so now it's gotta go to engineering, go to architect, back to the engineering. So what happens, you're losing money, and who's paying for it? We're paying for it. So I asked her, can you show us your RFI process and approximately how long it takes for you to resolve this without any issues with the drawings or any issues that will cost the district money? Because if it's an issue with the drawing, it goes back to the engineer, for electrical or plumbing, and guess who pays for it? We pay for it, but Perkins, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess the RFI process and every question on these drawings is included in the actual percentage that, I just want to reiterate, it's included in our package, correct?
The reviewing of them, yes.
Yeah, even if the drawing was to say, okay, you missed something on the one line, it's still included in the, okay, so that's why I told them I requested that they give us their process on the RFI. Board, so you guys can understand. Also, I think last November, December meeting, the board had a question about the poll. That's why they talked about the poll. Now that some of you guys were concerned about that, so that's why it was included in one of the projects. So when you guys have an idea out here, you have questions about the facilities, and we're all busy, and you're not able to go, just present it to the board as we speak now, and we can bring that up in our facilities committee, and I will have an answer for you. LT or the team will have an answer for you on the following board meeting. So if you have any questions, ask them now. If you have any ideas, put them out now.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah. So that's it. Yeah, no, great work. Yeah. Great to see you guys.
You got it?
Thanks.
Well,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Swanson.
Good evening, Board, President Patterson, Superintendent Henderson, and community. Just want to start off with just quick E-rate information about the FCC program that we are going to continue to utilize. We currently have $769,000 of Category 2 funding utilized by 2025-26, and we currently receive the rate of 85% towards projects to utilize that fund balance. So we'll continue, and how we're going to utilize that moving forward is that our firewalls were noted as a critical replacement piece for the infrastructure assessment. We posted an RFP on the 9th of this month for firewall replacement, installation, and configuration for all 3 district buildings. This would then qualify for our Category 2 E-rate funding, which would be an 85% cost reduction by the district. So we'd be utilizing some of that $700,000 roughly funds for this replacement, and then looking forward to expand that further. For our 2021-22 E-rate AT&T reimbursement, we received $22,307.72 of Category 1 reimbursement, so that was great, and we'll be moving forward to look for the 2022-23 reimbursement as well. Last board meeting, you approved MindSight MSP. We've currently implemented it across the district and established monthly maintenance windows and service intervals to ensure that all educational services are available 24/7 to our scholars. We've experienced 0 infrastructure outages since the implementation, and look forward to working with this MSP as they've been a great partner. Ring Central phone system. Proviso East is going to be the first school to transition to the new phone system. Currently, we're awaiting the final delivery of those phones to be deployed. So far, the testing here at PMSA and East, we've had no issues whatsoever with the deployment. So we will set a firm port date once those phones arrive, provide training, and then we'll proceed with Proviso West and PMSA in the district office. Our 1,300 student laptops order has arrived for the following school year, which is great news. So everything's going to be all set, ready to go, and well ready ahead of time of the scholars for the upcoming school year. And that is all. Any questions?
I just have one question. Are we still doing the, not an internship, with the students with IT?
Yeah, I'll have to discuss that further with the superintendent, but that's something we'd like to look forward to doing again.
Any other questions? All right, I'm sorry.
Now, we do have those laptops secured in a safe place, or are they coded, or is there some kind of security logo on them?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, they're all sealed, boxed, and stored up in our IT facility, and everything's locked and monitored by cameras.
Okay. All right, Dr. Adal, our last presentation.
Good evening, President Patterson and board. This is going to be very brief. Just an update on our vacancies as it relates to classroom teachers. We currently have 3 vacancies, one in English at Proviso East, one in PE at Proviso East, and one special education position at Proviso West. We do have some applicants in the pipeline, so I hope, as I come back in March, that at least some of these positions will be filled. Also, as part of our recruitment efforts, we will be attending 3 job fairs in the next several weeks. We're going to Northern Illinois on February 27th, UIC and ISU in the beginning of March. And all I have for you is the an action item is the personnel report. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation, Madam President.
At this time, the Board of Education opens the floor for citizen comment. The board will receive public comment from any individual present this evening and have submitted a request to address the board for established procedure. We believe that all participants in the meeting deserve the best outcome for our students, families, and communities. As a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed and will also be archived and available on the district website. As you know, comments are very important. I'm going to ask that the comments are done decent and in order. You will have 3 minutes. You cannot, or you're having some difficulties being respectful, I will stop your comments and we will move forward. Sam, they will have 3 minutes. You want to call?
Yeah, first name is Ashley Stone. 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. So I just want to make some statements about a YouTube video that was put out on January 13th called Facts Matter. If you haven't watched it, don't bother. It's 3 minutes of nonsense, including video clips of minor students without their parents' consent, or theirs, and lots of misinformation. So like the man in the video says, let me set some misinformation straight. Lie. Teachers allowed students to make campaign posters on school time. Fact. Posters that were hung in the school by students were made by students at home on a day off. Lie. Teachers and 2 board members are spreading misinformation and false criticism, about the superintendent. Fact, as I said last time I spoke here, a simple Google search will tell you all you need to know about Dr. Henderson's past working in school districts. Lie. Signs students hung up had campaign messages. Fact, no signs that were hung up by students told anyone who to vote for or who to vote out. If I'm being honest, in my opinion, the Teresa L. Kelly Stadium is a form of campaigning, but that's my opinion. Lie. Students were engaging in toxic protests. Fact. No student protest has been anything but peaceful, and many students have been threatened by administration for protesting and expressing our First Amendment rights. One more. Lie. The superintendent will never retaliate against students or teachers. Fact. He has. He suspended and fired multiple union teachers and a student. I'm just tired. I'm honestly sick and tired of being lied to by this administration who was supposed to be working for the students. And I'm just telling you now, please do better and realize your wrongs, because I believe you can all be genuinely great people. I've seen old Facebook and Instagram accounts of you guys working with the community, and it just really broke my heart to see how that's been changing so much. I don't know what happened, what made you board members switch up and stop being for the community, but it's really heartbreaking as a student and someone who wants to be a teacher and who's in a teacher program right now to see this district treating teachers horribly and students and not giving us the resources we need. So please do better, and if you don't want to do that, resign. Thank you for your time.
Next person, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Eric Willoughby. Willoughby, thank you. That's it. After him is Mike.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So tonight I just wanted to come up here and talk to you guys a little bit about a lot of concerns that I have with this district. The first being, I was outside earlier this board meeting and I spoke with some students and some teachers and some staff members. And it was really disgusting to hear their fear of this board and of this superintendent. Their fear to speak up and their fear to speak out about conditions that are so poor, so pathetic, so unbecoming of a school district in a first world country. It's really, really pathetic. And I'd like to go further and talk to you directly, Ms. Patterson.
Go right ahead and listen.
I'm glad. Because you and I spoke about 2-3 weeks ago in Ridge, and we had a shockingly agreeable conversation, I'm sure you remember it, about what it means to be a community-oriented public servant. That's something you know I want to go into. That's something I know you were into at one point. Yes, at one point. Right now, in the capacity you serve in, you are failing us. You are failing the students, the teachers, the staff, and the community. And time after time again, we have stood up and demand action from you. And demanded action from your failed superintendent. And what have we seen? No answer from the board. I'll go ahead and give you the answer. Nothing. We have seen peanuts. Okay? And now, Dr. Henderson, I'd also like to address you directly. You have failed this district. You are a criminal, both metaphorically and literally.
Young man, you're gonna stop right there. You're totally out of line.
How am I?
Have a seat. No, you will not. Have a seat.
Google search.
Have a seat.
It's a violation of the...
You will not do that.
Mike Hunt, please. Can I hear? Okay, Walter H. White. Walter H. White. Left. Andy Shivitz.
Hello. Everyone can hear me? Awesome. Good evening. My name is Andy Shevitz, and I am a high school student here today to advocate for the students of Proviso District 209. I believe that my perspective is an interesting one for the board to hear, as I am a student who is graduating a year early from high school. I was able to achieve this by acquiring all credits that I would need to graduate within 3 years, which is why I find it extremely disturbing that many students of this Proviso district are being held back due to credit deficits. And these credit deficits are a direct result of the lack of focus that the superintendent and board have had on the students of Proviso. That leads me to another issue that I would like to bring to the board's attention, which is directly impacting the education of the current students, which is the firing of amazing teachers such as Mrs. LaBash. Educator burnout is a term that is used to describe a growing fatigue that teachers have been experiencing due to lack of support from the Board of Education, principals, student superintendent, and so on. This burnout is a growing issue not only in Illinois, but the entirety of the United States. While educator burnout is arising in our districts, the board has been putting pressure on their educators to support their students indefinitely without any aid from the district. How can we expect our teachers to give rise to growth when they aren't equipped with the tools necessary to do so? And that will be the end of my statement. Thank you so much for listening, and happy Valentine's Day.
Same here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mia Wittstein.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Rutstein, and I'm a Proviso teacher. I'm here tonight because the state of our district is wounded. Every month we gather and every month we fight, each side absurdly accusing the other of not caring about the kids. And while we fight, newspapers record YouTube streams, and prospective young families considering moving to Proviso take one look and then look elsewhere. We can't continue down this self-sabotaging path. All we've accomplished is proving that allegations, name-calling, and shouting each other down poison our ability to work collaboratively. We're supposed to be the adults in the room, and we should know that we can't have it both ways. We can't impugn people's integrity and then act shocked when they won't work with us. Community, believe what you will about the board and superintendent, but acknowledge they sit up there every month, take incredible abuse, and are made public pariahs. Do you really believe they don't have feelings, that they don't have consciences? We get it. There's an election coming up, and by last count, there are about 80,000 people running for the board. But why haven't they been here? If they have a constructive message, they should step up and share it. I may be the only person in the room not running, but I'm willing to go first. Board, superintendent, I believe you underpay your teachers by 25%. That's why teachers leave this district at 5 times the rate of other districts. Other districts are happy to snap up Proviso teachers because, as Sinatra would have sung, other districts know if we can teach here, we can teach anywhere. Competitive pay would stabilize your workforce. As managers, you know that new employees are less productive, and other districts are more than happy for Proviso students to bear those learning losses for them. Increasing salaries would attract and retain the best teachers, which would yield increase in student achievement. It also makes good economic sense. Did you know that each 1% increase in teacher salaries creates a 2% increase in district property values? That's a much higher return for the district homeowners than the minor tax rebate the board is currently considering. I'd like to offer 2 more constructive proposals that would begin our desperately needed healing. First, resolve the outstanding grievances that have been filed. And second, rehire Ms. Jennifer LaBash. Like you, Ms. LaBash has her pride. Luckily, I do not, so I'm not above making this appeal. Your point has been made, she has suffered, and as importantly, her students and colleagues have suffered. Let's be honest, we all would love to have had a passionate fighter as our teacher. We would want such a champion for our children, someone to teach them to be fearless and stand up. Recall, we all hated Dennis Rodman until the moment he joined our team. You have new crystal gavels, which remind us of the Langston Hughes poem, in which the persevering mother, like Miss LaBash does with her students, encourages her child who has lost faith by exhorting, "Don't you turn back, don't you sit down." With one tap of your gavel tonight, you can give back to our students someone who believes in them enough to risk everything for them. and putting her back in her classroom, you can show the community and our district that our district functions and schools can be crystal clear. Thank you. And Andrea, happy Valentine's Day. I'll be home soon.
Next is John Cooper. And then after him, Jenny LeBash.
Good evening, President Patterson, Dr. Henderson, and fellow board members, along with community members. Let me remind you as board members that you are sworn to respect the taxpayer interests by serving as the faithful protector of the school district's monetary and physical assets. In the board book, how can you assert that there is any accuracy in the embarrassingly short one-page treasurer's report, voucher detail listing, vendor list by dollar amount, cash disbursement report, computer check journal, or the accounts payable listing, when there are blatant discrepancies between the various documents? The accounts payable listing shows far more money flowing out than shown in the voucher detail. The cash disbursement report and check journal have the same expenses showing up 2 times, and those expenses do not show up in the voucher detail or the vendor listing. The accounts payable list has expenses that do not show up on the other lists nor in the treasurer's report. Does this mean that the school is double paying some bills and not others? Are amounts being double counted so that the checks can divert funds elsewhere? Simple monthly 1099 reports showing IRS compliance of payments to vendors, a monthly bank reconciliation transmittal, and a monthly bank reconciliation worksheet that show board members and the community that all funds are being properly accounted for. A comparative monthly statement with variance amounts and percentage differences would raise any possible red flags. A basic general ledger used by most school districts showing the beginning balance, current amounts, monthly and quarterly and yearly periods which show fiscal prudence is being adhered to. If the grading system was so far off that 1,100 students were reclassified, how bad are our financials, seeing even less care is taken to input the district's financial transactions? Since the previous auditors quit, it took almost 8 months to find another accounting firm that is willing to take an advisory role and explore the possibility of being the auditors. This makes one realize that the previous auditor was unable to accurately audit, and the current ones are not willing to commit based on what they are currently reviewing and the current superintendent's history of district financial mismanagement and credit card irregularities.
Sir, we're going to stop you right there.
Okay, this should be.
Sir, I'm going to stop you right there. Please have a seat. Thank you, sir.
What's wrong with that?
Go to the next one.
Jenny LeBash, next one.
Let me remind you, if you come with the disrespect, I'm going to stop you. We will have a decorum at this Board of Education meeting, and that's just that.
Good evening, parents and students of Proviso Township. Thank you all for being here today or watching. I wanted to remind my B311 freshmen that roaming the hallways, you know who you are, 7th period, during class time is not a good idea. You don't want to have to go to summer school. You and I both know that not doing your work will only harm you with the end. Please make sure you're completing it. I know that things are stressful and you're holding it together the best you can. Please keep trying. You know that in college I won't be around to nag you. Also, for my college-bound seniors, please make sure you have all the necessary credits and I've filled out all of your paperwork. Scholarships. Can still be applied to anyone. Please ask one of your English teachers to help you find some or apply. For my students going into the trades, applications are now being accepted for IB W34. You need to bring your driver's license, social security card, and $50 application fee. for students in my first period class who want to go into plumbing. The Plumbers Union 130s accept non-online applications only and require your driver's license, social security card, and current high school transcripts. Remember, promise one day. Your future is a lifetime. Additionally, April 4th is right around the corner. All of you who are 18, including the ones who graduated last year, need to get out and vote. Your vote does count as needed. You are all trying to obtain your education under significantly difficult circumstances, and your teachers recognize that. I'm here to tell you that you can do this. We believe in you. To my students, you are worth it. You are worth me being up here. You are worth my absence for a little bit. You are worth the struggle. You are worth the fight. Your lives mean everything to us. Please take care until I come back.
To the young man that lives in Hansdale, you're absolutely right. I moderated his mother's running for the Board of Education in Hansdale. And we had a conversation in length. However, you were very respectful. In life, in order to get respect, you have to give it. There's nothing has changed about me. Nothing. I will continue to do my job here as people in this community elected me to do. I don't work for special interest groups. I work for all students, all faculty, and staff. I would like to say congratulations again to the student that took the initiative and wrote the letter to President of the United States, President Biden. That's history. I would also like to say happy Black History, period. It's not a Black History Month. It's Black History, period. I am concerned about the amount of Fs. I don't ever say teachers gave students F, but when you have this amount of students failing, something is mighty wrong. I checked with 5, 6 teacher friends of mine in other districts, in the North Shore and further west. Before a kid can fail, you actually have to fill out a form. You don't allow the kid to fail before you even make any contact with parents. This is serious. This is really serious. This is quite a few Fs in core subjects. We're not even talking about electives. So I think we need to find out, why are they failing? What are we doing right? Or what are we doing wrong? Or what could we do better to help a student at least get a passing grade? Thank you, Ms. Kelly, Rodney Alexander, Amanda Grant for participating, Bring Your Parent to School Day. Ms. Kelly, you and I had some conversation at length, and you were concerned about some of the things that you actually seen in the classroom. However, you weren't the only one. I talked to 4 of my neighbors who had grave concerns. One of them was, my child's teacher never came from behind the desk, never got out of their seat. And my child was working, the next parent, my child was working on a handout. The teacher never got out of his seat. So I think those are some of the things that we really have to pay attention to, because the parents picked it up right away. Thank you, Perkins and Will, for exposing our students to your architectural firm. We have to do better. We will do better. And I am, along with some of the board members here, are not going to be distracted, unfocused. We will push forward. This too shall pass. I stood there from 1999 up until the time I was elected to the board. And you didn't see anyone. I want to say to you, Mr. Cedric, I know that you know what you're doing. And for someone to stand and make allegations such as we're doing, or you're not, or you don't know what you're doing, I've heard quite a bit about you prior to your arrival here. Let the record reflect and let the public understand. There was a time that District 209 was in the black, in the red, for a long time, a very long time. Now that District 209 actually has a fund balance, in my opinion, one may take it as he or she chooses, folk are looking for a way to say that it's not so. We have done the work here. We will continue to do the work here. I will remind anybody, I have no political aspiration, so you can't hold a vote over my head. Thank you if you voted for me. Thank you if you don't vote for me. At the end of the day, this board has done yeoman's work. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Thank you. Thank you to all the administrators. Sometimes you are browbeat and pushed and all manners of things. At the end of the day, we are all human beings and we have feelings. Administration has feelings because they're human beings. And let's just not forget that. Extend the arm of love. I understand that an election is coming up, and you guys are going to hear all manners of things. All I say to you is be educated on your voting, because folks are going to come up with some things that's not true, far-fetched. Just do your homework. Do your homework. I guarantee you, April 5th, this room will probably be empty. Within a couple of weeks, you won't see anybody. And they'll start back up in 2 years. Don't be hoodwinked and bamboozled. Don't be hoodwinked and bamboozled. Consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda items as presented?
So moved.
I'm sorry?
Will you pull the items out first?
You could pull them, we could pull them.
Anything before?
Any items?
Huh?
You pulled items?
No, yes, what'd you say?
No, it's just.
I guess she got some items she wants to pull.
I'd like to put B and D.
I can't hear the thing. Which one?
B, 12B and 12D. Failures personal.
12
B is in Ward, 12 is in David.
and 12D?
Yes. B and D, 12B and D.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda item on the exception of 12B and D?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Alexander,
Aye.
Ms. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Medina,
Nay.
for the consent agenda. Ms. Patterson,
Aye.
Ms. Grant,
Aye.
Mr. Valtierrez, aye. Mr. Wagner,
Aye.
motion carries.
On 12B.
So moved.
Motion
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay.
Call the roll.
Mr. Alexander?
Aye.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Medina?
Nay.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Ms. Grant?
Nay.
Mr. Valentier's aye. Mr. Wagner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve 12D and David.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion. We're still not provided, information as to where people are being hired, what their experience actually is. And, I cannot consider any hires without information.
Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Alexander?
Aye.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Medina?
Nay.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Ms. Grant?
Nay.
Mr. Valentier's aye. Mr. Wagner?
Aye.
Motion carries. FOIA report. FOIA report. In January 2023, Proviso Township High School District 209 received the following FOIA requests. January 10, 2023, Rachel Esposito requests a copy of all current special payroll employees, names, hire dates, position, title, job descriptions, and current salaries. Information was provided. January 17, 2023, L&P Brewin, copy of January presentation slides from board meeting presentation. Information was provided. That concludes the FOIA report. Old business.
Old business, new business.
Old business. So a few months ago, I asked, and I believe, Dr. Williams, you might have talked a little bit about it for our English language learners. I just wanted to see if we could have a presentation on what we are doing for these students. I know some of the districts in the elementary levels, I had an issue with a lot of these. There's a lot of people from Venezuela, Peru, they came doing this migration this past summer, and they're having issues with teachers and processes and procedures to take care of the students. So I just want to make sure that we are addressing our students that don't speak the language appropriately. So I want to see if the rest of the board members agree. I want to vote. I want to see if we could have a presentation of what is being done and what is our process for these students to be educated in our district.
I'd like to second on that, and also know that we're actually following policy, because we're not. And there's a lot of things that are not being done to our for our students, as far as our yellow.
So I'm just looking for information to be presented to the board. It's an interest to my community. I get a lot of this out in the community, so I just want to see what we're doing.
Absolutely, Mr. Beltran, we will bring that report to you. That's exactly what I spoke on this evening from the state, from the multilingual department.
Right.
So yes, we will definitely have that for you.
Yeah, kind of like speak about it and like the way we speak it. So elaborate on it, just
Yes, sir.
I can have information when community members come up to me, to assure them that we are doing something for this community. I was one of those students many years ago. I was not born here. I came here when I was 7. So I know how it feels when they put you in a room or a special ed because you don't speak the language.
Duly noted, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, old business?
New business.
Let's go.
Still old business.
You got old business, old business?
Old business?
Oh, yeah, you got old business. You got old business?
No, I got new business.
Oh, Amanda.
Thank you. Old business. That video that went out that Ms. Stoll actually referred to, the Facts Matter video, was that produced in-house or by Barrier Breakers?
It was produced in
It was produced in-house? Okay. I really have a lot of words about that video, but I think to show footage of a student in a video for something that they were punished for, broadcast it on YouTube where it's open to everyone, do it without the student's parents' consent, and then to announce in that actual video, this is not a retaliation video, is laughable. And it's in such, and this is the nicest way I can say it, in such poor taste and poor judgment. It really bothers me that any kind of air or time or effort was put into something this disgusting, and I hope it stops. Thank you.
I've heard quite a bit about this video and the student. Please keep in mind that this could have went in a whole different direction. It's called criminal damage to school property. The word criminal in itself is a problem. I think we handled it in-house, and for some reason, we keep trying to rehash. There's so much more could have been said about what occurred, whether it was erasable or not. It was the faces that was chosen to be X'd out. It was myself, Ms. Kelly, and Rodney. Because see, I said that I spoke up for that very student. Ms. Grant, when you stated, no you didn't, but I did I not, Dr. Henderson? We could have went in a whole different direction. We chose not to. Now, I'm not going to open the floor up for argument. Criminal damage to school property anywhere, vandalism is a no-no.
Hate crime.
But we're not going to go there. I'm not going. We have had a decent meeting. I'm moving on. Rodney, what do you have? New business.
New business,
I still have old
on-
business.
On business.
I haven't finished, I have my hand up.
Okay, old business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Policy 7180, prevention and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. It's in our Proviso Township High School District 209 policy. It says bullying, intimidation, and harassment diminishes students' ability to learn and a school's ability to educate. Preventing students from engaging in these disruptive behaviors and providing all students equal access to a safe, non-hostile learning environment are important district goals. Bullying on the basis of actual or perceived race, color, national origin, military status, unfavorable discharge status from the military service, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender-related identity or expression, ancestry, age, religion, physical or mental disability, order of protection status, status of being homeless, or actual or potential marital or parental status, including pregnancy, association with a person or a group with one or more of the aforementioned actual or perceived characteristics or any other distinguishing characteristic is prohibited in each of the following situations. During any school-sponsored education program or activity, while in school, on school property, on school buses or other school vehicles, at designated school bus stops waiting for the school bus, or at school-sponsored or school-sanctioned events or activities, through the transmission of information from a school computer network, or other similar electronic school equipment. 4, through the transmission of information from a computer that is accessed at a non-school related location, activity, function, or program, or from the use of technology or an electronic device that is not owned, leased, or used by a school district or school, if the bullying causes a substantial disruption to the educational process or orderly operation of a school. This item applies only in cases in which a school administrator or teacher receives a report that bullying through this means has occurred, and it does not require a district or school staff or monitor any non-school related activity, function, or program. In other words, our bully prevention 7180, our superintendent is in violation because of that video, of this specific policy. And we, as a board, should be keeping all people accountable, because I know that they have kept the teachers accountable and students accountable. But this, Having sanctioned a student in a video is a complete violation of our policy, and he should be held accountable.
Criminal damage to school property is against the law.
We're talking about
It's
video.
clearly in
We're talking
our,
about the
it's
video.
clearly,
It is clear.
it's
about video.
clearly in our policy.
The
I don't
public
know what
humiliation of
you're
the
not
student.
understanding, you're not gonna grandstand.
The
Criminal
public
damage to
humiliation of the
school property is against the law. We will not violate the law. We could have made this worse than what it was. We as adults chose differently. Go ahead, Rodney, new business.
Taken out
New business.
of a minor. It is a complete violation of policy.
Ms. Medina, we're gonna get home early tonight regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't care that there's a violation of policy
I don't care
by the
about-
superintendent?
I don't care about what
Okay,
you
we'll
do.
keep that, make sure, we'll make a record of that.
I don't care. Yeah, it's amazing that folks can't stay for a little while, but I understand. On February 7th, 1926, Dr. Carter G.
Every month. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired?
Do I have the floor?
Yes, you do. Go right ahead,
I'm
please.
sorry. On February 7th, 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week. And he chose the month of February, not because it was the shortest month of the year, but because it was the birth months of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And within that week, thousands of teachers and educators, black teachers and educators, mostly women, supported the movement, community members, and what we have now today is African American History Month. And while we're thankful for the accomplishments that built this country for free on the backs of African Americans, not all slaves, some indentured servants, and a lot through the Jim Crow era after Reconstruction between 1865 and 1875. We're still faced as an unprotected group in this country with the ills of systematic disenfranchisement, bigotry, and racism. I listened to Board Member Valtierrez proudly advocate for a group of folk coming over here seeking a better way of life. And his expectations that we extend to them the full rights and privileges of citizenship in District 209, and that we provide them with all of the things that a human being should be provided with to be able to get a decent education, regardless of their status, regardless of their political views, regardless of their race and culture. And I commend him for that. But see, Sam, I'm sitting over here as a black man, and I've never experienced any of that. To this day, our people are disenfranchised throughout all systems in this country and treated inhumanely just for the color of our skin. And if I say black, then everybody frowns or cringes as if I don't have a right to be as proud for my people as you are for yours. I sit up here as the only black man on this Board of Education proudly. And I will proudly always remember where I came from, the responsibilities and the groundwork that's been laid before me, and the responsibility for us as a people, African Americans, to live this whole country, because without us, we wouldn't even be here. We are disenfranchised through the educational system. 1954 Brown v. Board of Education gave us the right to sit in the classroom with white students, but there's never been a study on how to educate black children. There's never been a program specifically for black children. There's no ELL for us. When we couldn't speak the language, they called it Ebonics and laughed at us. Never has there been any consideration for the African American child and the specific needs to educate that person. I thank this board for finally realizing that African American history as a part of the educational process was a necessity if we're going to educate our children. Because you can't educate a child who doesn't know who they are. Through the legal system, not only do we face murder at the hands of the very people that are supposed to protect us, very seldom do we even get justice for it. Listen, folks, I'm not up here claiming victim at all, because yet we still rise, as Maya Angelou would say. I want to celebrate the accomplishments of our people. I want to encourage us as black people to hold our heads up. We have nothing to be ashamed of at all. We built this country, and we will continue to show black excellence. And when we rise, the entire country rises, because that's why we're here. And that's just a fact. Madam President, you said one thing and I'll close. There's an excuse made when a white student X's out black faces on the board. That's not even acceptable. We have to call it what it is, and in order to do that, we have to address it for what it is. There were 4 other people on that board she could have X'd out. and she just happened to choose the black ones. But we're supposed to believe that that's a coincidence. Okay, no, sorry, not doing that anymore. Because unfortunately, we die. And it's not a coincidence that the ones that are dying at the hands of police just happen to look like me. And they're not armed, and they're not violent, and they're not angry. They just happen to be a different skin color. So in celebration of African American History Month, I just ask the teachers that I've been talking to, infuse the curriculum and infuse the history into everything that you teach. Our history is American history. We're just a part of this, we're as much a part of this country as anybody else. And if you really want to go deep, we were here before most of y'all anyway. So to my board members, I pray that we all, regardless of our culture, continue to celebrate. I want to thank the staff and the teachers for being sensitive, culturally sensitive at Proviso 209, to include all students and define what true equity is. Thank you, Madam President.
Dr. Henderson, one last question here in reference to, because these Fs are weighing heavy in my mind here, on my mind. How are parents notified if a student has a D, on the verge of not graduating, an F? When do they tell them? After they really can't even make up an F? How?
In the world of education, we will be in concert with our parents. We will be talking to our parents before, long before, it's time to get a grade. And that's what we must do. But as we know, unfortunately, many of our teachers push back against contacting the parents.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
Yeah, I had a parent, that's why I'm asking, she's listening and looking tonight. She's always sending emails to her student teacher. She actually pulled out a laundry list of email. She does not understand how her child received an F in English, an F in math, no phone calls, no return response to her email. She pulled out her phone. She said, this is crazy. I'm doing my part. They said it started home, but I'm not getting a response from school. So I actually told her to make an appointment with the teacher as well as the principal at Proviso East. You can't send a kid every single day to school, no cuts in class, and they fail. Something is wrong. Maybe there was a computer error. I don't know. The kid showed me papers that he had. I don't know, but I did ask that this is really disturbing because if it happened to that one parent, it's happening to somebody else. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Can I say something before?
I wanted to say something.
Going home.
Go ahead, I'll leave it to Ms. Kelly.
No, I just.
Go ahead, brother, go ahead.
Go on.
Go.
Every time Rodney tells his story, I'm so amazed because I'm like, you know, I cannot grasp the feeling that I know where I came from. You know, many African Americans don't know where they came from. I could go to Mexico, I was born there, and I could take my children and say, you know what, you were born there, those are the ruins, your great grandfather was born there. Yet I think about what Rodney is saying is like, that's why I supported him so much in the Black History course or class. Because of that, I cannot imagine myself being in this country, third, fourth generation, and to not knowing where I came from. It just confuses me. It's just like, I have no identity. Because I know I could go to Mexico and hey, you know, it's just such a good feeling to know where you came from. You could go to the grounds where your great-grandparents were, and you know, I came from there. And I was talking to Rodney one day, I said, Rodney, wow, that's a terrible thing, and you know, it's a terrible thing not to know where you came. Yeah, you know, came from Africa, but where? Where? When I talk to my fellow Latino, and folks, this is true wherever you go. Even my race is very racist towards blacks. And I told them, you know, if it wasn't for Martin Luther King, we'll be scrubbing floors in the schools instead of being taught in the schools. That's what I told them. So I don't know where you get your racism from. But we have to understand that even our own Latino students, white students, have to take this course so they could understand what the blacks did for this country. And you know, that's just my understanding. I grew up in the city of Chicago,
you know, low income, they have Humboldt Park, you know, terrible place, but not nice place for me, but terrible for everybody else. And, you know, I concur with Mr. Alexander, his feeling and his passion for his people, because he's right. I could just not bear the feeling to not know where I come from, or go to a country and say I came from there, but where? What part? I just feel so unidentified, like I couldn't bear with that. So it's very important to even on a team of students to take those classes and to understand Black History Month. That's all.
Thanks,
Ms. Kelly?
I'd just like to congratulate Matt Brown, teacher here at PMSA. He received Teacher of the Month. And I think we could just put our hands together and let Brown
Can we reach motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Alexander?
Aye.
Ms. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Medina?
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Ms. Grant? Nay. Mr. Gutierrez? Aye. Mr. Wagner? Aye. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
Deal with it tomorrow.